It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
I got to give Travis a little love. We've been talking about the Seattle-Jacksonville game when Henderson got thrown out of the game and he was walking out and a beer got thrown at him by a fan. A couple beers did. Travis, and he's correct. He said with how expensive
Jefferson,
Jefferson. Yeah. Well, with how expensive the beers are at stadiums, there's no way I'd waste one by throwing it at the opposing team.
That's a fair point.
Travis, that is an absolute fair point. That's a waste of $8.
I got to tell you, it's funny you brought that up. There was a horrible scene, gosh, I want to say in 99 or 2000. The Browns were playing somebody, and I was doing the NFL on ESPN radio, and tons of bottles rained down onto the field. I was doing the NFL on ESPN radio with John Riggins at the time.
Wow.
Riggo and I were doing stuff.
Boy.
Yeah, he came in for a little while, and I was like, this is terrible. This is a horrible scene. This is just really bad for the NFL. And Riggin goes, yeah, and that's a waste of a lot of good beer.
That's exactly right.
So I wonder if that's Riggo's burner account.
It might be Travis, yeah.
Travis is Riggo's burner account.
It is true, though. Get ready to, you're the emotional fan. You're getting ready to hoit, and you look at the beer and you go, wait a minute. I spent $10 on that thing. I'm not throwing it.
So anyway, that was an ugly scene at the end of the Seahawks and Jaguars game, and there's going to be some fines and maybe some suspensions all the way around. We'll see how that plays out going forward. But there was another scene that took place in Houston on Sunday that really caught the attention of a lot of people, and that was quarterback Tom Savage took a hit near his own goal line, and when you saw him lying on the ground, his
hand was
shaking like a little seizure, twitching, and that happens a lot. Like in a boxing match when you get knocked out.
Right.
So he was taken out. He was reviewed on the sidelines by the independent neurologist and then put back into the game for a couple of plays. And then they noticed some other symptoms and they took him out again. And look, when you saw him lying on the ground, twitching like that, it was a very visceral reaction. And you wondered how could this happen? How could we have an independent neurologist clear him after seeing that? And then you wonder, Mike, from a perspective, okay, we saw it on the replay of the television, and we saw the official right over him, so he saw it.
Right.
You wonder, did the neurologist see the same images that we saw?
Right. There are a lot of questions to ask here, and understand that the questions are, you want to say devil's advocate or just covering all sides of this, is we all saw on the TV and the replay and a close-up, and you saw the hand shaking. So one of the first questions I thought of when they put him back in the game of what did they see on the sideline?
Right.
Certainly on the sideline, I don't think they saw what we had to see in slow motion in a close-up. Now, so the question is, did you see that? And if you saw that, how could you put him back in the game? Did you not see that, and then you cleared him and put him back in the game? And then the question is, how could you not see that? You have the spotter that's up in the booth. Now, the spotter, an independent spotter, it's like a trainer, has the ability to stop play and have somebody pulled off the field. So I'd imagine they would have TVs up there as well. Did anybody up in the booth like that see the replay and actually then see up close him shaking and look what looked like, a seizure? Though I'm certainly not a medical person to know that, but it did not look good. So those are the questions I think to ask. What was seen and what was known? Was it like the normal? He got his bell rung. He came over. We've seen other people.
This is not the first time this year, let alone any other year.
They get cleared and they go back in the game and everything's fine at times. And this is one where he got cleared, went back in the game, and everything wasn't fine. They evaluated him again and kept him off. It seems like when there's something that bad, when he's laying there like that somebody, again, whether it's in the booth, somebody needs to have seen that. And that's my question. Did they? Or were you just going off the premise of he got his bell rung, let's check him, he seems fine, we're clearing him to put him back in the game? And should that visual change your perspective on if somebody goes back in the game or not? Again, I would much rather hear from a neurologist to say, yeah, you get hit on the ground and you're shaking a bit like that, there's no way you should. Now, it seems like common sense to say, oh, my God, that dude is not going anywhere near the field again. But I think a question to ask is, what did they see and know on the sideline of that part of it?
Well, that's the part that I think is so frustrating for people that watch the game, because how can if we're setting up this entire protocol to make sure that these things don't happen, how is it that someone who is in charge of the protocol is not seeing the same things that we're seeing? And if they're not, that's a bigger issue.
I completely agree.
That's a bigger issue.
Completely agree. If you have that spotter, that medical person in the booth who has a TV there, a camera, and how many times did they show that?
Right.
Did you see that replay? If you don't see that, I'm with you. If we get out of all this, well, nobody really saw him. Well, the ref had to. He was there.
I think he was the one that said he needs to go off the field.
So, I mean, does a ref go and relay that? See, I don't know. That's what I don't know, the communication process. Hey, this dude hit the ground. His hands were shaking. This could be really bad. Again, should the spotter be seeing this on replay up in the booth? There are cameras. I mean, there's TVs everywhere. And if you're seeing the replay, shouldn't it get to them on the sideline of, hey, you know what? Not only did he get stung in the head, but his hands were shaking a bit here, and for what that means, and medical people know more than us. But you're right. That could prove to be a bigger issue with all the cameras and all the personnel and all the protocol to not know exactly what happened out there.
That's the thing. I'd like to know what the procedure is, because we've seen to have this happen on more than one occasion. And look, if you see that in a boxing match, fight's over.
Fight's over.
Done. Okay, so you can't – if you see that, you have to – that guy's got to go out, and I want to know exactly how it happened. And I want to be clear about something. I'm not sure that I can totally blame the coaching staff or Bill O'Brien, because he is relying on other people.
That's exactly right.
And a lot of people asked Bill O'Brien about that, and here's what he said after the game.
He doesn't want to come out of the game, but again, that's in the medical people's hands, and they try to make the best decision for the player. They're trying to, whatever they see, and then the testing that they do, they try to make the best decision with the player, and they weren't satisfied with the results of the second test, so they decided to pull him, and then that's when he went into the locker room.
I'm with you. I have a tough time blaming the coach. Has got to coach.
He's worried about what he can control,
and it because how many coaches have we had on over the years, and you've talked to on NFL Live, and I've talked to on Mike and Mike, where we ask the coach, what's your thought process? Even if a doctor says he's okay, what do you think? And he's like, guys, that's what we have to rely on. I'm coaching a game. There's the medical staff to handle this. If the medical staff comes up and said he's out, he's out. If a medical staff comes up and said he's clear to go back in, I'm going to put him back in. Now, the player, in this case, Tom Savage, he wanted to go back in. Actually got pulled off the second time when he tried to go back in again.
Assistant coach.
They grabbed him and pulled him off the field, but he wants. So stop relying on the player. I don't know if we're ever going to get to the point where there's enough knowledge out there where a player is going to pull himself or stay out. I think we'll see. We may see more and more of that. But Tom Savage wanted to go play.
Right.
Tom Savage got cleared to go back in the game, so he went back in the game. Players want to play. So a lot of this is taking their helmet to not even having a chance to get back on the field because they don't have their helmet, because players will try and get back onto the field. But to your point about the head coach, I'm kind of with you here, Trey. I don't. If he doesn't see what happened, he's coaching a team. He's got a lot of other things to worry about. He sees his quarterback woozy and walking off the field. He now says, medical staff, he's going into the concussion protocol. I'm going to continue coaching this team, and then a medical personnel is going to come up to me and say, he's cleared. Okay, put him back in the game. I mean, that to me, that's tough to put on the head coach.
Yeah, I'm not excusing anybody for the flaws in the system, but at some point, if you are Bill O'Brien, here is what I'm doing. I'm focusing on, okay, that's the play that happened. Here's the very next play I'm focusing on. Is he not in the game? Fine. You tell me what the situation is with him. I think the protocol is the bigger issue here.
In question,
and the gaps there. And look, I'd love to get a more clear explanation for exactly how this whole thing works, because at the end of the day, with so many cameras on, if they're not seeing the same things that we at home are seeing, then I think that's the bigger issue in the system.
Trey, the biggest difference here was we saw a guy whose hand was shaking, right? Now, we saw it in the replay when the camera was only on him and it was in kind of slow motion. So I don't know if on the sideline you could actually see that.
Yeah.
Because we've seen plenty of guys get hit and they're stung, but maybe not see the shaking like that. What does that mean? And how does that go into play if, in fact, the doctors and the independent neurologists were told that, hey, when he rolled over, his hands were shaking. That's what I don't know. And I'm with you. I'd like to know that protocol. There's getting stung. There's he got hit in the head. Let's check him out. And, hey, there's stung. His head hit the thing. And when he rolled over, he was shaking. I don't know how that comes into play.
Right.
Certainly, as a layperson like us, it doesn't look good at all. But I don't know the medical side of that to say, well, that now makes it more important to where he's nowhere near going back in the game, or that's part and parcel to hitting your head. That I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, but that's where the questions, I'm completely with you, need to be on that protocol.
And you brought up another thing, which is players policing themselves. I think that most every player wants to play.
Yep.
However, there have been times, I think Ben Roethlisberger a couple of years ago in a game, I think it was in Seattle, took himself out of the game.
He did.
But we have to understand there are players that will do that and there are players that won't, and that might depend on your status.
Right.
Okay? If you are Ben Roethlisberger, who's won 2 Super Bowls, has a $100 million contract, I think you're going to be much more comfortable saying, I need to take myself out of the game than a special teamer who may have had a head injury. And he's like, hey, man, I need to be on the field so I can keep my job.
Right.
And that's why it has to be completely away from the players. And we'll see how that goes forward, and we'll see if we can get some more information about what went down with the procedure in Houston. Golic and Wingo, presented by 1-800-Flowers. Capture the excitement of Christmas morning with 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order 12 peppermint roses for only $29.99, you get an extra half dozen and a vase for free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. And speaking of flowers, it certainly seemed like the Marlins may want to send, or the Yankees may want to send the Marlins a bunch of flowers with what went down over the weekend. Again, baseball winter meetings getting underway this week, but the big deal, I don't think we're going to find anything bigger than this. The Marlins have agreed to trade Giancarlo Stanton to the Yankees for Starlin Castro and 2 minor leaguers. Stanton's owed, about $300 million over the next 10 years.
I think $295, and the Marlins are picking, $30 million of that? Yeah. So the Yankees are on the hook for $265.
He has the right to opt out of his contract and become a free agent after receiving $77 million over the next 3 seasons. Now, obviously, if you're a Yankee fan, you're ecstatic because now you have Judge and Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup, along with everyone else that of those young Yankee hitters. But if you're a Marlins fan, you're like, really? We're doing this again? And what makes it weird is the fact that the guy in charge of baseball operations down in South Beach is none other than Yankee legend Derek Jeter. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, is he a secret double agent?
Yeah, how about it?
Is he a secret double agent for the team we just traded Giancarlo Stanton to?
Well, I think in listening to Jeter when he did speak, a while ago, that he was kind of preparing Marlin fans for, listen, we may be taking a step back here before we step forward. We have money issues we need to deal with, and what's one way to deal with the money issues is get rid of the biggest money guy out there, and that is obviously Stanton. Yeah. My thought on the other side is that's your only draw right now. Would you build around that guy in a sport where you have to deal with a tax? I get it, but you can certainly spend a whole lot of money if you choose to. It's not like the hard cap like the NFL. That would be your drawing card there, and they just decided to completely rebuild, which has got to be tough because everybody was excited what Derek Jeter was going to stay in the game, be part owner, and that's where I think these big-time former players want to be. They want to be in that general manager to ownership kind of level where they are controlling things. And for a lot of people, they're going to think, it's going to be different with Derek Jeter, and then they get there, and then it's not different with Derek Jeter. Maybe they expected Derek to say, we're going to hang on to Stanton. He's a big-time bopper out there. He's a great draw for us. Let's build around him. Instead, he did what so many other owners have done, is cut bait on a lot of money and try and rebuild again. So that's it's a shame for them. And now I saw you tweet it, and it will be interesting. For the Yankees, they were kind of lovable this year.
Yeah, so much for those rascally young Yankees.
Yeah, they were young. They weren't supposed to be here. They knocked off my Indians, who were the favorite. They move on, and they're close to the World Series. They're like, wow, look at these young guys, man. How cool is this?
They're back to being the evil empire.
Now it's like they can spend. Now that they'll be back to spending all that money again, passing the Dodgers in payroll again. Wait for see what happens with Harper next year
or Manny Machado. I mean, they're talking about all these people coming.
Just really, really amazing. But wow. wow, what a lineup. What an addition. You basically have a football locker room now. We're starting with those two guys.
Well, you got power forwards, I can promise you that.
Smokes.
Dan Le Batard, by the way, who will join us in the next hour, tweeted this. Baseball teaming up with Jeter to give him a baseball team, and Jeter turning around and trading the MVP to his old team while screwing South Florida. Feels like Wall Street fraud. I can't fault anybody for feeling that way.
I can't. You know? I'm sure there were a lot of people. Listen, Derek Jeter was beloved, right? With
Always
the way
has been.
he handled himself. I mean, he was that boring quote, but as a former player, that's exactly the way I wanted it. He was never, on the tabloids and in a bad way. He was the captain. He's known as the captain.
Yep.
I mean, my gosh. I mean, what his career was. And then, he's going to own a baseball team? This is going to be fantastic. And now already he's ticked off a whole section of the country.
Yeah.
So that's I'll be interested to hear what Dan has to say about that. But boy, oh boy, I mean, the expectations already for the Yankees going into this year
before this
trade was that they were going to be one of the top dogs, and now there's no doubt it's World Series or bust for this team.
Well, here's Eduardo Perez on the impact of what Stanton coming to the Yankees could mean.
Scary. You look at the lineup of Giancarlo Stanton, obviously Aaron Judge, and let's not forget about Gary Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
And it was beautiful to see Didi Gregorius today tweet out, "So, Skip, am I not the cleanup hitter now anymore? What are the chances?" I think that was brilliant. And Aaron Boone's, what a gift. What a gift to have so much power, to have so many guys in this lineup where he can now make a choice. And it's going to be interesting. To me, Greg Bird is going to be the wild card here. Left-handed hitter. If he comes through the way he did in the postseason, this is a lineup that can do a lot of damage. We thought they were putting last year. Now with Giancarlo Stanton in that lineup, they stay healthy. It's a scary situation for a lot of teams in that Eastern Division and the American League.
Listen, at the end of the day, the Aaron Boone should be, on 1-800-Flowers.com right now, typing out a message to Derek saying, "Thanks, buddy.
Hey, pal.
Appreciate
you."
Look what Aaron just – I mean, listen, they still have to deal with the start. Their bullpen's fantastic. We understand that. Have the starting pitching to go to try and up that to where they need it to be to go with the hit. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well,
it's ridiculous to think about the sticks they have.
I think Eduardo Perez used that word perfectly. What a gift.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that are on baseball, not just in Miami now, I think a lot of people that aren't Yankee fans feeling like they got a gift.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an interesting dynamic here that's going to have to play out, because now when you look at this, Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, and Didi Gregorius. Last season, those four players combined to hit 169 home runs. Every single member of the Red Sox combined to hit 168. This is the kind of firepower we're talking about.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's insane.
And it's somewhat young firepower.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, and that's the thing, too. I mean, we talked about this earlier. Stanton is only the third reigning MVP winner to change teams in an offseason. One was Barry Bonds in 92 when he left the Pirates to go to San Francisco. And the other was Alex Rodriguez when he had his $250 million contract and left the Rangers to go to the Yankees. So it's happened 3 times. And 2 times out of 3, it's happened to the Yankees. All right, they've gone on to the Yankees.
Just for age, Sanchez is 25, Didi Gregorius is 27. Obviously, Judge, he's young. He's only 25 as well. I mean, it's just crazy the youth they have on this team. Really is.
Aaron Judge got into this. He tweeted at Giancarlo Stanton the line. It's a little clip, a GIF from Step Brothers, and this is the one.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
That's pretty much what it was.
That is awesome.
I mean, think about it. If you're Aaron Judge, okay, you're like, dude, I may hit 70. You protection is everywhere right now. So I mean, that lineup is crazy. And then Mike Trout also had quite a weekend. On Friday, he learned that the best player in Japan, Shohei Ohtani, will join the Angels. On Saturday, he got married, and today his Eagles were playing in L.A. and they won that game. Except the Carson Wentz thing is obviously going to deal with that, and that'll be something.
I'm going to tell you, I'm looking forward to that. Pitching and then could be DHing as well.
I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
Me too, really am.
That'll be, look, a lot of baseball talk this week. Again, winter meetings are getting underway. We'll have more on this throughout the week, and we'll have Michael Kay and Dan Le Batard coming up in the next hour to talk about the opposite ends of this trade and how they both feel about it.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident When it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life, Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We're moving through another hour. Golick and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Glad you're here with us on a Monday. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and then Hefe joins us in studio. Jeff Saturday is here with us. We'll get into Mike Tomlin and the Steelers a little bit, but just so you know, you're sitting in the hot seat today.
All right. I like it.
There was another former center sitting in that seat, Mike Golick Jr., and these two had Family Feud hour.
They're going at it, huh?
Well, defensive lineman Mike Golick Sr.,
right.
Center Mike Golick Jr. in college.
I'm not going to lie to you. I got to prefer the center. I'm just saying that off the jump.
I respect that.
Loyalty lies there.
And they got into it with a little bit about the end of the Seahawks-Jaguars game when the Seahawks down by a score, trying to dive for the ball when the Jags were in victory formation. Golick's like, that's of course what they should be doing. And Junior said, no, game's over. Your thoughts?
If it's within a score, it's not. I'm with older Golick, which is tough for me to say for a defensive lineman. You got to protect yourself.
You've just ruined the whole dynamic of the show. So you got to change your opinion right now.
You know why? Because he's actually the thought process here. He's smart. He understands.
Here is my one issue: when you're reaching to go low, what Bennett did after that is cheap. Right, so that whole issue, he's grabbing, he's rolling around with Linder, he's trying to tackle him, doing all that kind of trash. That's where you lose it. And I'll be honest, when we played, if I knew a team was going to do that, I'm telling my guards, hey, submarine, come out low. You're going for legs. Make sure guys understand what it is. Tackles, protect yourself. But we actually practiced this play on Thursdays and Fridays with the Colts just to stop that, because some team, especially one that's got a chip on their shoulder, beating them for a big game, they want to do those things. So I have no problem with the way the Jaguars handled it. But you're asking guys to play the play and then be done with it. If you don't swipe the ball, he doesn't knock it down from Bennett, let it go, get up, and now it's over. That would be my only issue with the whole play.
It's completely my point as well. Taking away the premise of it is just because it happened in that game. My overall, for the most part, the kneel down, I get it. You just have at it. And
if the game's completely out of control, you're right.
But as I said, in this particular game, what had happened the two previous series? It took one play.
One snap.
That's snap
right.
in each of those series for inexplicably Jacksonville to let a wide receiver behind them, not once, but twice. So you're one score from winning. You've done it twice to them. Why not take a swipe at the ball?
Yeah.
I have no problem with them firing out low and trying to get the ball, but then it ends there. If you don't get the ball, you don't do any more than that, and that's why I separated from what I saw yesterday to where it turned into what it did.
And you and I both know this as well. When you go to the line of scrimmage, I'm just telling you this from 14 years, you know if they're taking the play off or not. Like, guys don't – there's a different stance that when you go up there, you can see everybody kind of huddles together, everybody gets down. They're barely putting their hand on the ground. Half the time the defensive line's not. If they get lined up, you better know to protect yourself.
Well, don't you usually – because I've had teams come to the line and say, hey, we're kneeling down, we're kneeling down, and we would say, we don't care.
Exactly.
Or cool.
No, 100%.
We don't care.
100%.
We don't care.
Because you're walking
coming at you.
Yeah. You go up, you can tell right away if Michael Bennett's in a stance where he's firing out or if he's got his pads and he's taking them off and his helmet's unbuckled. Like, there's a completely different way about going. From my perspective, as you see him even a breath of hesitation as an offensive lineman, you fire out, because the last thing you want is your quarterback, you get knocked into your quarterback. That's really all that the coaches care about. It sounds horrible, but they don't care about you. No. They don't care about if I get blown up. It's, you better not let Manning get touched or you may not play next week.
You're the barrier that is the line, the last line of defense, so our quarterback is in bubble wrap.
You're disappointed, aren't you?
No, I'm okay
that he kind of – I think there's part of my son that kind of agrees with me in a small sliver of, if it's one score. You just scored twice on a team.
Right.
Take one shot at the ball to try and get the fumble. I just think because I'm his dad, he didn't want to
take shots.
It's been that way for a while. And that is Jeff Saturday and you giving us the Straight Talk, by the way. Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, so that was obviously a controversy on Sunday. Another controversial play for a variety of different reasons is what happened to Tom Savage.
Oh, yeah.
The quarterback in there. And Mike and I were having this thing, and it's this conversation. I think it's very easy to say to the coaching staff, hey, man, how the heck do you let him go back in there? But if you're honest with yourself, it's not the coaching staff of the Texans. Somewhere the concussion protocol system let Tom Savage down. That's what let him down.
You're 100% right. Listen, as much as you want, the coaches have no role in this. They have been told over and over and over, you have no process in injury. Unless you see the player, something happened to the player, then it's your – but other than that, you have no role. The doctors, the third-party neurologist who's there, the spotter who's supposed to be watching, this is what they're there for. This is all that they're supposed to be watching is those type of incidents. It has nothing to do with Bill O'Brien being able to say – he has no idea. He can't see. And listen – you have so many coaches calling plays now. They don't have time to look to see what happened after the play. They're looking down at their script, figuring out what's the next play. What's my next formation? What's my next personnel grouping? They're yelling things. They know they're backed up. It's all those things. It is not the coach's responsibility. Now, once he came off, if they told him, hey, he got wired up, he was knocked out because he went frigid hands, which is a kind of a telltale for all of us.
Absolutely.
From my perspective, the only thing that you would look at is – The third-party neurologist got to stop it. He can't go back in the game. When he goes back in the game, you would just hope that the other players, if they had seen it, that they would be like, hey, man, what are you doing back in? Because I don't know that they know. Because, again, if you're blocking forward, sometimes you turn around and all you see is Savage getting up. You really don't see all the stuff that happens behind it. And we all know from wrestling, boxing, you name it, when a guy goes out, he doesn't even know he's out. Right. He gets up ready to fight. Savage probably has no idea really what has transpired in this whole thing. And so just from all of those different levels, it's difficult to see how we keep having this same conversation. It's a third party's responsibility. The guy should have never had his helmet back in his hand, should have went into the locker room, or if he's going to stay on the sideline with no ability to get back in the game.
That was my point, is what did everybody know? Because to your point, who saw that? The ref seemed to see it. He was standing, because we got to see a close-up of him in instant replay in slow motion.
Yeah.
Well, the sideline doesn't see that.
No, exactly.
So you don't know what they saw. Now, the spotter that's up in the booth, I'm sure, has a monitor there, and if they're showing replays, if he saw it, and then let him go back in, you question that. And if he didn't see it, then you wonder, why didn't he see it?
Right.
And then I even want to get down to the refs. What's the refs' responsibility in this? Because they're not doctors.
No.
And you don't want them to be. But he looked like he was looking right at Savage when Savage was his hands were shaking. Do you go over and you say, hey, not only is he dinged, but, man, when he rolled over, his hands were shaking. I don't know what that means. I'm just telling you what I saw. I don't know the responsibility of the ref in that case. I have no idea, but somewhere along the lines, something seemed to be missed there.
You're 100% right. And, again, it goes back to the medical staff, which is the third party. I don't even mean the team's medical staff. The third party neurologist, that is his job to watch that. And it's not like this was a collision play where 3 or 4 guys are hurt on one play. This was one play in the back of the end zone where one guy is frigid.
So let me ask you this. So what if the neurologist who's on the sideline never knew that his hands were shaking and just treated it like any other, I don't want to make it sound like any other, but, we see guys get stung all the time.
The visual certainly makes it worse.
Right.
Yes.
So what if he never knew about the visual, and we've seen guys go in the tent, we see guys get cleared for head, and we've seen him go back on the field. What if it was as simple as that, and because he never saw or never knew about any of the shaking?
That would be a problem for me,
right?
As a player, because let me tell you, it wasn't like it was a blip and he pops right up.
Right.
He is literally laying there for a substantial amount of time. I mean, you're talking substantial. I mean, 10, 15 seconds.
Enough to be seen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like that is your job, brother. Like it would be like me watching a play. Your job is to be involved in the play, not to watch the play. So if your job is to watch this guy and protect us, I mean, from my perspective, it's on him, man. Your job is to protect me from myself. That's why you're hired, and we pay your salary for that purpose.
That's the thing that we can't quite figure out. And I'd love to get more clarification on how it works, but if they can't see the things that we're seeing,
right? Yeah.
That creates a problem. That creates a bigger issue.
I agree.
I'd love to get the answer to that. We're going to get your answer on a couple of other things too, about what the injury to Carson Wentz means for the Eagles. Can we trust the Steelers? And is snow football the best kind of football there possibly is? We'll get into all of that. Another comeback win for the Steelers last night. Ridiculous. 39-38. It seems like they're in a shootout every week, and Chris Boswell saves them on a last-second field goal every week. And they're 11-2. They've won 8 straight games. They've won their division. Patriots can win their division tonight. They move to 11-2, and then we got a showdown next week.
Then they match up.
Week 15.
Yep.
I guess the question I have for you is, as good as the Steelers are playing, and they didn't have Juju Smith-Schuster last night,
right?
And they still threw for 500 yards. When push comes to shove, do we think they will be able to match up not only next week against the Patriots, but also when it may matter most in the postseason?
Yeah, I think if there's anybody in the AFC, this is the squad to do it. I mean, you see that Antonio Brown, whether you're singling him, doubling him, tripling him,
quadrupling
it doesn't matter.
Does not matter.
It's like one of the most amazing feats that I've seen in football, that it doesn't matter how many guys are on this. What do you have? He had 130 or something like that yards just in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
It's insanity what he's able to do. And this is not a scrub defense.
No.
500 yards throwing the ball against her. I mean, it's absolutely insane what they were capable of doing. And this is the fear that I think everybody had when the Steelers kind of were being built in the offseason is, how do you slow all these guys down? And the cool part of it is when you flip it over to the Patriots, same thing. It doesn't matter if Gronkowski's not there, Edelman's not there, Hogan's out. For some, whatever reason, they find ways to keep putting up points, keep sustaining drives, and staying in ball games. I would say the one issue for me, and what I'm looking for most, I know we have the game tonight, but once these two teams play, Patriots defense, the back end against those receivers, how much they've improved from week 4 until now. And the communication, all that kind of stuff. Is Gilmore the guy that they thought he was going to be? Here's the test, right? Here's the test to see, are we going to lock this up? Malcolm Butler, who's going to be the guy that travels with him, or do they? It's going to be something to really watch, because it's going to be a lot of fun. But they get rolling with Le'Veon Bell, and I've said this from the beginning. The offense has to go through Bell. As good as Brown is, as good as Roethlisberger is, now you throw Boswell in. Well, I'll just allow that to happen for right now, although it's iffy for me. I'm going to say this. Bell is the key. You've got to keep riding him, keep running the football, commitment to the run, him in the screen game, the passing game, because ultimately he sets the standard and the stage for that offense.
And it wasn't a big rushing attack for them yesterday, but he was catching the ball out of the backfield as well, so still being involved in the offense. Another big matchup for next week is Saturday night, the Chargers at Kansas City. And my son on his show, First and Last, threw out this poll question. Trey and I both answered it one way. The poll went the other way.
Completely the other way.
Which was surprising to me. I take your thought.
Okay.
So the Chargers are right on the outside looking in to the Chiefs, who lead the division. Both 7-6. Chiefs already won the first game. Chargers win this game. They're leading the division and control their own destiny, right?
Right.
That's the way it's going to work. Would you rather be the Chargers right now, or would you rather be the Eagles, where you've clinched, but your quarterback is most likely gone for the season?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I would say this. I'm probably still going to be the Eagles, because as much as I like Wentz, that's a good football team. I mean, they got 3 and 4 running backs that can do it. They have a very good defense, even though they gave a bunch yesterday to the Rams. But this is a good football team.
Yeah.
The line is pretty good. Defensive line is phenomenal. So as I'm looking at one guy, to me, as bad as a major loss that is, I would probably still ride. You're in. You have the you probably have the in all the way to home field advantage, carrying it through now with what happened in Minnesota. So as I'm sitting there, I'd probably still there. I do like the fact, though, that people are rallying.
Yeah,
people are rallying. People are railing around their Chargers. I mean, anytime you get hot in the playoffs. Listen, I've lost to the Chargers as they get hot in the playoffs. I've lost to the Steelers when they, 8-8 or whatever it is, and they come into our. So I know what it feels like to lose to teams that are getting hot at the right time.
Yeah.
But I'm still going Eagles right now.
We all did too.
Yeah.
It was interesting, the poll that was way in favor of the Chargers.
I like that. It's the underdog mentality.
They're still not in it, though.
Right.
I mean, in Kansas City's last couple of, Kansas City kind of figured some things out in that last game.
It's amazing what you do when you hand it to Hunt 25 times and then throw it to him a few times, too.
And
it's amazing what you do when you get the best player on your offense the ball a lot.
Been amazing how long it's been since he's had that 100-yard game or been involved like that, but sets up just another phenomenal game this weekend.
We got tons of them. Now, so you're not overly concerned then about the loss of Wentz if he's gone for the year because you think that team is good enough to build
I am concerned. Listen, what he does for that team, what he does extending plays, especially on third down, how he buys time. And then, listen, he is physical when he runs it, too. I know he ends up fumbling it last week before, as he's going in the end zone and all this. But the guy is a tough guy. And the way he plays, Foles does not have that part of his game. My big concern for Foles is how are people going to play him? You think like no one was expecting Foles to play, so there was no game plan for him. When you set it up and you realize, hey, I'm going to make him roll to his right or roll to his left, I'm going to situate this part of the field, I'm going to take it away from him, make him do what he doesn't do well. That's what you do. That's the that's the one that you just don't know. It's the mystery of it.
But I'm with you. I think they have a lot of weapons.
They do
on offense.
They're a good
that
football
he can
team.
Spread the ball out too. They lose that mobility factor of Wentz, no doubt about that. Though
they lose the make something out of nothing play.
That's right,
basically.
exactly.
Real quickly, yes or no? Snow football, good or bad?
Bad.
Oh, get out of here!
Bad from a player.
Get out of here!
Oh my gosh! I was freezing. I couldn't wait to get to the jet heater as fast as I could. I thank God all the time that I was taken to a dome team, 70 and beautiful, all my home games.
And I'm
a huge fan.
And I thought you were a true football player.
No, you were totally mistaken.